Hello student. In the previous session, we discussed about the RMI and the architecture of RMI. So basically the RMI is used for distributed computing, and when you want to create any application which have any remote computing, or we can say that which you want to communicate with the remote system, then at that time RMI is useful. Now we move on to the next part of second unit, that is Servlet. So Servlet is used for the dynamic to create dynamic web application. So whenever we want to create any web application in using Java, so Servlet and JSP is the best approach. So what is Servlet, how you can use Servlet in Java, how the different APIs and different packages are there, what is the structure of Servlet, what is the life cycle of Servlet. So this all the things we will discuss in this second unit part, or second part unit. So first of all, we discuss that what is a static page and what is dynamic page. So static web pages, we say that it contains only just plain files. For example, whenever you create any applet, right? So in applet, or any command line application, the the documentation or the number of statements you write on your program, and the output is displayed about or corresponding to that statement. So it is defined as you done some number of codes, or you did some number or write some number of statements, and the execution is done and the output is displayed. So this is the predefined thing. We can say that you just have to execute that thing and the output is displayed. So this is defined as the plain files which is stored in file system. Is you can say that is the static web pages. Web server accepts that path names and returns the content of corresponding file, and it can't generate customized content and always serve the same static page. It means that you just predefine the things, and whenever the browser request for the data, server give the same response, like that is a predefined, or the developer develop for that content. That page is displayed same as the for the old type of request. So static web page is just we can say that there is no change, or there is no modification can be done in the response from the server side. So it means that when the appropriate request or appropriate answer you can't get from the server side, so it becomes very problematic when you want to get answer, or when you want to get a response from the individual or any dynamic request at the client side. So this is the this in figure you see that the static web page which is generally created in .html file is just a straightforward pass to the browser as it is. There is no modification or changes in the pages about the which it means that the content that server is passed to the browser is appropriate or not, but the request is passed to the server. The server sends same content or same file to the back to the client. So it is the simple and boring scenario of the static pages. So we move on to the dynamic page. So whenever what is the dynamic page? It means that when client sends a request, server analyze that request, and after analyzing the request, appropriate response is sent back to the client. So it means that it modification or it updation can be performed whenever the request is come from the client, and using this request and using this information, server get a proper response from the databases, and send back to the client. So there are different technologies are available to when you create any dynamic pages. So when we talk about the Servlet, so previously when the Servlet is not in picture, there is a CGI is there. So CGI is common gateway interface. So whenever you want to create any dynamic web pages, CGI is there. So what is the thing when the dynamic page or dynamic page is created? So web browser send a request to the server. So server is sent that request to that application which is used for to creating a dynamic page, that is CGI, that is Servlet, that is JSP, that is PHP, or any type of technologies you can use to create any dynamic page. So server what the server is doing, server send this request to that application, and application analyze this request and generate the response, and that response is sent back to the server, and server send this response to client. So this all the thing is performed when the dynamic page is come in picture. So let's we talk about something about CGI. So CGI is common gateway interface to create a dynamic web application. When the Servlet is not there, CGI is used very highly. So it is the oldest standard, we can say that, because there are some many drawbacks whenever you use CGI, because it is inefficient and no persistent state, and it you have to create the another programs, or we can say, or to create that dynamic pages, there are some variables are also used. But the main thing is that you can get the proper answer or proper response whenever the client send a request from to the from to the server. So this all the thing is done in CGI. Whenever the request is made, it forward to the external programs and generate one process for each new request. So what is the drawbacks of CGIs? So whenever you use CGI, the request that is come from the client, it generates every time a new request. So what is the backend process is done? It means that in the background, the every time CGI creates new request and the new process is generated, and whenever the new process is generated, all the CPU power, all the memory power, all the memory management thing is have to be done or re-managed for that every new request or every new process. So this thing is done when you use the CGI. In using CGI, you can communicate via standard input output variables, and you can also set environment variables, and the all the thing is also done to create that run or to provide the runtime environment to run the dynamic web application. So this all the thing is provided using the technologies which can be used to run the dynamic pages. So now we move on to that what are the differences between static and dynamic website. So whenever you define that static website or dynamic website, you can easily differentiate, but what are the major differences? That static website is pre-built content. It means that the number of pages you just created, and whenever the request is come from the client, you just display that limited pages as a response. While in dynamic website, what is the thing is that content is generated and it changes regularly. So a request according to that request, the response is generated and it changes regularly. While a static website uses HTML code to develop a website, while in dynamic website you use number of technologies such as PHP, Servlet, JSP, ASP.NET, Python, etc. When static website is used, it sends exactly the same response for every request, while in dynamic they may generate different HTML or different JSP page or different pages for the each request. The content in static website content is only changed when someone publishes and updates the file. While in dynamic website, the page contains server-side code which allows the server to generate unique content when the page is loaded. It means that in the static website, the developer have to change, or developer have to modify the content regularly. If he do not that thing, then and every time the request is generated and the old content is displayed. While in the dynamic website, the server side code is run, so the request is sent to the server, and the server this pass the request to that server side code or the application which generate the response. So modification is done at the server side. Flexibility is the main advantages of the static website, that you can easily change the content, or you can delete the content or modify this thing, because the all limited the content are there, and you just have to statically define the thing, so it is easy. While in dynamic website, there is the content management system is there, and it is the hard to handle, so it becomes some generate some complexity. So here is the difference between static and dynamic website. Next is the difference between CGI and Servlet. As we discussed that CGI is used to create a dynamic web application and the Servlet is not in picture. So what the upgraded version of the CGI is work as a Servlet. So what are the main differences is there, and how you can say that the Servlet is more efficient compared to CGI. So CGI is an interface which handles external programs on a web server to enable the execution of the interactive web pages. Like Servlet is a simple web-based Java program which can used to create dynamic web page and work as intermediate between client and server. So CGI is work as a interface and handles this the programs which is run on server, while Servlet is we can say that it is work as a intermediate between client and server. Programs generally written in CGI is in native languages like C or C++, while Servlet is used in Java. Whenever you use any operating system dependent languages, so the application has also become platform dependent. So CGI is also platform dependent, while Servlet is platform independent. In the each request, CGI worked as a new process, while in the Servlet, each request works as a thread. So compared to process and thread, there are these differences is also carry forward to the CGI and Servlet. CGI is heavyweight, while Servlet is lightweight, because every time the thread is created in Servlet, so the management, the memory management and the process management is also becomes very easy compared to process. CGI is non-portable, while Servlet is portable, and data sharing is not possible in CGI, while in the Servlet you can share the data easily. So these are the difference between CGI and Servlet. Now we see that what is Servlet and what is the structure of a Servlet. So Servlet is a technology that is used to create a web application, and it resides at the server side and create a dynamic web pages. So in the figure you see that client send a request to the server, then server send this request to the application, or we can say that the Servlet, and the response is generated at the runtime. So whenever the request is passed to the Servlet analyze this request and execute the code which is implemented at the server side, and response is generated, and this response is sent to the client. So we can say that server is a technology which resides at the server side and create a dynamic web page. So there are different tasks can be done by the Servlet. So whenever the request is sent to the server, and the response is sent back to the client, among all the thing, among these two process, there are lots of background processes also done by the servlet. So this task can be done by the servlet. So first of all, it read the data that's sent by the user. For example, the form which you want to which you entered in your application. For example, the login page is there, and you enter your username and password, and after clicking submit button, there is a lots of procedure is done. So when you enter your username and password, that data is considered as a form data or implicit data. So this data is sent to the server, and server send this data to the servlet. So servlet is look up that information, and it also server also send this request according related to the network. So http request that is generated through network is also sent to the servlet. So in the http request is also sent to the server. So how many types of http request, or we can say that which data is considered as a http request? That authentication data, cookies, session, then headers, this all the information is contained in the http request. So when the request is sent to the server, two types of data is there. One is implicit data and the second one is explicit data. Implicit data contains the user information which entered manually from the user, while the explicit data contains the client information, and it is explicitly attached to the request when the request is sent to the server. Because whenever the request is come from the client, the server have to uh, gain the information of the client, because which type of client is there, how the appropriate data, or which are the constraint of the client side has it all the thing server have to know. So this information, this both information have to gain from the client side. So the request is sent to the server. Two types of data are there: implicit data and explicit data. Then after servlet this reads this both type of data and generate the results. So using any type of database or any types of file system which is connected with the server, using this information, servlet generate the response. And when the servlet send the response back to the client, it also send two type of data, that is implicit data and explicit data, we can say that. Because implicit data is used for the user, which gives that user interface and which is display at the user side. And explicit data is for the client, because whenever the client wants the clients get a response, at that time server information is also sent to the client. So this both type of data is sent by the servlet. So servlet format the result in a document which is generally HTML or JSP. It means that user interface that is supported by the client, that type of document is generated by the servlet. And it also add the appropriate HTTP response parameter that is related to that client. So this HTTP contained data is also sent back to the client. And this in this type of data there is cookie contained type, then host information is also there, and it is sent to the client. And at the last, this both type of data, explicit data and implicit data, is sent that document to the user. So this all the tasks can be done by the servlet. Whenever the request is passed from client to server, and when response is generated from server to client, is this all the thing is maintained by the servlet. Now we see that advantages of servlet. There are different types of advantages, or whenever you compare the sublet to the CGI or any other technologies. So many advantages are there. Among them, first one is performance. Whenever we use compare the CGI to the Servlet, so the performance is better than CGI of the Servlet. So it is not necessary to create a separate process to handle each HTTP request, and it execute within the address space of a web server. So it saves the memory resource and make a performance better than CGI. As we already discussed that CGI creates a new process for every request. So while the Servlet does not create any new request, but it creates new thread. So Servlet does not need any memory more memory space to compare to CGI. So it handles this thing easily. So performance is also increased whenever the Servlet is used. Second advantage is platform independence. As we all know that Java is a platform independent language, so Servlet is also used as a platform independent technology, and it also create the runtime environment for the running that dynamic web page. Then the third one is security. The most secure language is Java, as we all know that. So Servlet is also run under JVM and it is secured. So using the Java Security Manager, the server-side component inherits all the security features of the Java and it is stored at the web server. Servlet is efficient and it initialization code. So it is only executed for the first time when the web server loads it, and once the server has been loaded, it is only a matter of calling the service to handle the new request. So it is efficient for each and every request. It means that when the Servlet run any application for the first time, it just have to load that class, all the initialization configuration process that have to be done only one time whenever the first time the request is generated. After the sub request is generated, then at that time it does not have to initialization process or configuration process have to be done. It just have to that call that Servlet, and the execution is also done fast. So this is the efficient whenever the Servlet is used. Then next is persistency. So Servlet can maintain the state between request, and once the Servlet has been loaded, it takes its state in the memory until the last request will arrive. So taking the advantage of persistent characteristics of Servlet will improve the performance application. So as we all know that for example we can say that if Servlet contain any functionality, for example there is the functionality like add sugar, right? So add sugar function is reset in one Servlet file, that is serv1. So whenever any request is generated that need that add sugar method, so the client send the request for the first time. When client send a request, it create and configure all the procedure for the Servlet, and whenever the next time that same client generate this type of request which want to get the add sugar method, so it just call this method and executed the request and generate the response. So this means that you just have to put one time all the configuration process, and after the same client request, you do not have to done this all the thing. So it is very easy when the client is same and the request is also same. Next is portable. Servlet are developed using Java, so it is also portable. Next is robust. As we all know that servlets are developed with the JDBC, so they provide maximum robust solution with the help of Java's well-defined exception hierarchy, garbage collection, network support, file support, and many more is available whenever you use Servlet. So this becomes the Servlet robust. Next is extensible. It means that pure Servlet is pure OOP uh, uh, languages like Java. So it can easily extended polymorph and many more OOP concept can be applied in Servlet easily. So you can use that whenever the Servlet is used for the any type of request, you can easily modify or extend the features in your application. So the best example is of search engine tool, which you can put on your each and every page, which will be used to search different things on the different pages. So this is the all type of OOP functionalities can be applied in the Servlet. Next is flexible. Servlets are quite flexible because it can be added to a static page using a Servlet tag. So you can add static page also. So the static page functionality can also be used in Servlet. And the last one is secure. So Servlet are run on a server side and gives the facility and security internally provided by the web servlet. So the more security is applied whenever you use the servlet. So this is the advantages of servlet. In the this all the thing is used for the to create a web application. So the web application is an application accessible from the web, and there are the different advantages whenever we use web application, like better performance, portability, robust, secure, and security. So this all the things is created whenever you create any web application. And to create this web application, many more features are also available, like filtration, session, cookie. So this all the thing is very helpful whenever you use any real-time application. So web application is the most useful thing to create any application. So this is the basic introduction part of the Servlet and web application, or we see that the difference between CGI and Servlet, then static and dynamic web page. So this all the introductory part of Servlet is completed here. In the next session, we see that what are the terminology used in the dynamic web applications generally, and how you can create a servlet in Java. So this all the thing is the introductory part of the servlet. And now we move on to the next session when the servlet is how you can create a servlet and how you can run in your system.